I wanted it like this because I want you guys to help me. Okay, I love that.
I know.
Going.
I don't like this. You can see my yes on screen.
I thought that they'd be able to.
Okay. I look really bad on screen.
Oh, they can see you when it's classroom anyways, so.
Obviously, things that.
What? I think we're in the same boat.
Everything's Gucci,
Oh my god.
except I unpaired with the PowerPoint, and I just want to make sure that people can see it. I had too much coffee in my bread. I keep.
By the new setup.
That should be it, and there's the, there's the.
Wherever you want to sit, that looks like a taser. I was like, what are you doing with that?
It so does. Oh my gosh. It's definitely here to pass around the microphone.
There you go.
Trying to talk, right?
Just the arrow.
Yep, Arrow forward, arrow back.
Open
Okay.
house this weekend.
There's a bit of a lag on the screen, and we'll get chat back up.
Not sure yet.
Ta-da.
So can they see the thing on
Yes.
here? Okay.
Yes.
Full battery now.
Like the standard. It's rare if a team's not 50-50.
We're in a group discussion though. This is honestly a great setup. I think
It's like $100-something a month.
I got my license in September, so I might have seen you.
But also fun, it's not like I'm my own boss, like he's my boss. He wants me to be here from 8:30 to 5 every day. He wants me to do these certain activities every day. It's not like I can just do whatever I want. Like he can, you know? Love it. Yeah. This is the first time I've worked, like this is the first time I've had a real job, basically in my adult life. And I'm in my 30s, you know? So I just feel like I need someone to like tell me what to do. And then I'll figure it out on my own after that, you know?
We are full battery and ready to rumble. Okay. About. Okay, that's what I thought.
I need to go get more leads.
Who'd you choose?
Right?
Who's your transaction coordinator?
Nicole Bauer.
Any of your friends that you might. I think these people are your friends.
Well, they've already signed.
They're all mine.
Or son- No, you're Ashley.
Savannah.
I'm Candy. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. How about you? You're like, yeah, you're like, it all runs together.
I should have brought snacks. Hi. I switched it up a little bit. Okay, I'll move up when I'm done eating. Yeah, I want you guys to participate. that we can. But I don't think it'll take that much. But they do want me to cover quite a bit, so maybe it will. Okay, let's go ahead. I'm Lindsey Fearing. Classes every once in a while. So if you would.
Savannah, sorry. Savannah Slater. I'm an independent agent and I got my license in September.
Hi, Lindsay. I'm Katie Pittman. I am with Mark Stewart, and I've been here for 3 months.
Jackie McMahon, and I got my license at the beginning of June.
Shane Knups, got my license in the middle of June. Also independent.
Tim Wooten, I've been here since May. I'm Amy Malaya's buyer's agent.
I'm Taylor Johnson. I'm with Evans Group, and I've had my license since April 13th, I think.
I am Candy Wynn, and I've had my license for like a month.
You and a lot of people. Quite a few.
I'm Sadie Farwalt, and I've been licensed since September of last year.
So let's jump in. Do you guys have the workbooks or no? I'm gonna follow this-ish, like a little bit, but kind of do my own thing too. Start here. Let's build a buyer timeline. Okay, so we get the contract after showing 85 houses and writing 14 offers. What happens next? What is the first timeline after the contract's accepted and you have the fully executed contract? Timeline date that you need to work. Okay, so what I'm gonna say is then comes earnest money. That's going to be your first one. I think it's on page 7 of the contract. Unless they are not provided, unless you don't have them, and then it defaults. I was trying to think of things a little outside the box to teach this class really thoroughly so that you understand the contract at the end of the class and all the dates that come along with it that you might not think of. So then we have earnest money, you know. So in the middle of these is when you're going to send lender and title. And I recommend talking to the lender, whether you're on the buyer or the seller side. Updates so that you're aware.
Send the lender contact the lender, and then to just contact the title company.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, contact the title company, talking to the co-agent. Don't have have the disclosures, you're sending them. What happens next? Sorry. So then you have your inspection period, right? So you're getting all your inspections done, you're gathering the reports, and then you're writing. Once you send the inspection notice. So then that's defaults to 10 days. So inspection notice. We're gonna track the appraisal of contingency. All to 25 days. Some of you probably write it as appraisal and finance. So we're gonna track the appraisal. Contract is the financing contingency. So in this area, the financing contingency is closed, which doesn't happen very often. That's not 2 to 3 days before. So if you do need to extend those periods, then you're gonna have to write an amendment if you didn't have that clear to close to protect your buyer. As far as the seller, it's up to you if you want to tell the buyer's agent the finance. That's up to you. Yeah, just the, it says amendment for contract of residential real estate. Let's see. So you are going to want, let me backtrack here a little bit. You are gonna want your buyer to be looking for by the end of the inspection period, because there's things that come up. Well, the roof's old. I've seen them ask for some crazy thing, right? And that could make your deal fall apart. So you want to make sure that your buyers are getting their home. So sometimes the lenders kind of wait for the last thing as their last items. Oh, yeah, we did. We totally. So the title contingency, it defaults to 10 days. No title company has the title work back to you in 10 days. But then it also says that the buyer then has 20 days. Wrapping contingencies, that's when the title contingency expires. That just means that if there's any easements the buyer doesn't like, all that good stuff, it's, as the buyer's agent, you are supposed to send them the title work. They need to. Right, that there's no easements, and if you don't understand title work at first, ask your title friends to help explain it to you. Yeah, when you contact the title company, that's what you're doing, is you're putting in. And you should be forwarding it to the buyer. Don't forward it to the buyer. A lot of title companies, I work in St. Louis with some St. Louis people too, and they do send their title work to their buyers, but our title companies here don't. This is stuff that I've learned along the way, the hard way, you know? Okay. Sorry. Okay. So for the buyers, the next thing I'm gonna do, I like to schedule the closing 2 weeks in advance. So that's gonna be my next timeline item, is schedule. One big thing that you're gonna wanna do with your lender, once the appraisal's back and you've told everybody it's back and it's at value, hopefully, and everything's all good, you are going to want to track that closing disclosure, that it's 3 days, that it's signed 3 days prior to closing. So you're gonna write your lender and ask them. I'd recommend like before 3 days prior to closing. I usually do it 4 or 5 days. And I say scheduled to be signed in time for closing on whatever date. That closing disclosure has to be signed. Some lenders do it differently, but the majority has to have the closing disclosure signed 3 business days, and Saturday is considered a business day. So it'd be Friday, Sunday's not, and then holidays are not. So just keep that in mind whenever you're. All the repairs are done and you have all. Final walkthrough. That's the next one. Out. Yeah, and scheduling. Yeah. I actually made a checklist for you guys, and then I was like, well, what would happen if they had, you know, a TC? And I like deleted half of it, and I'm like, that's good, okay. Like,
Highlight the stuff that we need.
Right,
If we don't
right.
have it, see if we have one.
Yes,
That's what you need from me.
yes.
You do this, Kathy.
Yes. Okay, so, and then I always. So the final walkthrough, and then you're gonna get final numbers from title. Action invoices on there. Action fee is on there, that your commissions are correct. Always gonna be you. Chaplain will review it, but at the end of the day, you guys have to be the ones that review that and make sure everything's correct. But you'll want to ask for it before that. Yeah, you'll want to have it, I like it 3 days prior to closing the title. When that closing disclosure is supposed to be signed, we should be able to have. That's a perfect world situation. There's some times where it is the closing table. I usually like to tell my agents though, like, hey, I haven't seen numbers, so when you go. Like a transaction fee that you have agreed upon in the. Those can be for TC. Transaction coordinators in this area, if you wanted to hire one, they wouldn't cost you. Oh, I see them from 150. I don't think I've ever seen one over 500, but just no, the only thing is that if it's a VA loan, the buyers will have to pay it out of pocket. I'm so sorry. They're talking the mic. If it's a VA loan, then the buyers, the financing companies won't let them pay for that fee on the closing disclosure. It has to be paid out of pocket. So they'll have to bring a check made out to Keller Williams. It gets kind of awkward. So you're like, I'll just cover the 250 or whatever, you know? So, I mean, some people do, other people are like, I need nothing. So however you want to do that, it's fine. And then next, the final step that I can think of is sending your buyers a closing package, which has all their paperwork in it. Maybe you received their appraisal and you filed that for them, and everything that you have in their file that they signed, I would send to them. They will receive a copy from title of their title work and their, you know, all that good stuff from title, but it's nice for them to have their contract with their inspection in it if they ever need to go back. So that's going to be my last one, is closing package. And in the middle of all this, making sure all the boxes are checked and there's signatures everywhere you need them to be and whatnot. Okay, so questions. Let's take questions now. Yep. So on the title. That's a title company's responsibility to make sure that all, so we're going to assume that those are correct on their end, right? That's not really our lane. But a title commitment, you know, or is the buyer or seller, that's going to be decided in the contract. That's going to be something you'll need to look at, like, oh wait, my seller's paying this and this is supposed to be split. Seller, whatever it was in the contract. What if there's an HOA? You do not want your buyer to call you and be like, the HOA is hitting me up for fees that should have been taken care of at title. You know, like if there was any back HOAs or anything like that, it needs to be checked. If you ask for seller concessions, is that still a thing right now? I don't know, but it's the seller concessions. You want to make sure that the price is right. If there's an inspection invoice, all that, you want to be able to review that. But as far as maybe the lending numbers, we don't know what the lenders charge. You know, you could out to the lender and say,
They're gonna yell at me if I don't. What was I going? Oh, a couple questions actually. One, how do you find, I have a listing with, how do you find the HOA information? Like, especially if it's voluntary HOA, I feel like it's harder to find.
yeah, title company is
Title.
going to be your go-to for CC&Rs, for for HOAs. I just had this question today from an agent. Like, somebody's asking for the HOAs, who do I go to? My first call is going to be the title company that I'm using, like my preferred vendor title company. They usually have a list of the HOAs.
So I just started working with a couple investors, and you don't see this a lot right now, but like one of them's looking at a foreclosure. Do foreclosures have sellers disclosures or no? No. Okay. I just
If they
want
are,
to
they're not going to make any disclosures.
Yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure
Seller's
for
disclosures
compliance
is
that they
just a
needed it.
good thing to track because on the contract, it says seller agrees to provide buyer with a seller's disclosure statement within, it says 1 day. Defaults to 1 day. Okay. After the effective date. Oh, buyer has 3 days after the delivery of disclosure to review it and deliver the notice to the seller if this contract is to be terminated with earnest money. So basically, you need your buyers to sign that within the 3 days so that they have the right to say, why didn't I? Or maybe they disclosed that there was really bad termites. I mean, you just never know on those things, you know? Maybe they just septic and they didn't know that and they don't want to, home with it. Documents, okay. So communications is going to be where you're talking to your buyer. And it's going to be who you're talking to at what time, right? So you're going to update your buyer here. I mean, you want your buyer to stay informed. Like, they want to know. And if they know, it's good. Like, it's a good thing if they know. Now, with that being said, if there's a problem, we don't come to people with problems unless we already have a solution, right? We don't freak buyers out unless we know the answer to it already. Hey, there was a little snafu. Don't worry, we're taking care of it. But we're going to communicate title company and the buyer. We're going to say you need to get your lender up front as soon as they ask. This is going to be time sensitive and it can delay. I've seen a buyer's title come back, like if they have a Dave Johnson name, like something really common, they'll come back and they'll be like, was Dave Johnson arrested? This Dave Johnson's in prison or whatever. And then they have to say, no, this one's not me. Here's my social security card or whatever they have to do to clear up that title discrepancy. Okay. When you're ordering the inspections, you're talking to the co-agent. You're going to make sure the co-agent knows. You're going to make sure the buyer knows when it's scheduled. Everybody needs to be on the same. Inspection notice and resolution. You're obviously going to be talking to the buyer and co-agent during this. Appraisal contingency. I have on my list here of when you're going to talk to the lender about if the appraisal contingency cleared. What I do is I track the appraisal due date so that everybody's on the same page back from. And I just ask the lender that. You can usually ask the lender that about 7 days after closing or after the contract's been sent to them. Then they should have had plenty of time to do whatever on their end. Every lending company is a little different. A rural property, and that takes longer. Financing contingency, this is all going to be the lender again. Schedule a reinspection if you need it. Documents. This is my favorite. Okay, so obviously you need super important because if you don't have the buyer's signature, you don't know what date your contingency goes off of, right? So if the buyer makes an offer, the seller counters, you need that final counter with that date on it to really be able to tell where your contingency dates are going to begin. If not, you don't have that. That's, I mean, not to be said that they sign on the same time the seller does. All the signature. So you need a fully executed contract, and then with buyer's docs, I also made you guys a commissions and compliance checklist that'll have everything that's needed for the buyer, everything that's needed for under contract too. Lead-based paint disclosure. Best detail sheet has to be initialed for KW. Money receipt, inspection notice and resolution, any amendment. There's like a scenario that I can think of. Let's say your inspection notice doesn't go through and your buyer wants to cancel the contract. Five extra days on your inspection. Of additional time. Specialist report.
If it's, okay, so right now I have a contract.
That doesn't matter. If your appraisal contingency expires, but the financing contingency and the appraisal, I just asked Jim and Dawn this question last week, I think. They're not contingent upon each other. So if your appraisal contingency expires, it has no regards on if your buyer can get the loan up to what it appraises for. It's saying that they'll pay the difference between. So if the appraisal contingency expires, right? Government loan. Government loan.
They were talking about the.
If you don't check the box, check this box only if the following paragraph is intended to apply. So it has to be checked And then there's 25-day default, and this is contract days. Or this is calendar days. It's not business days. I think that that's where this contract can get complicated, because this contract counts calendar days, doesn't care about holidays, doesn't care about weekends, and lenders are working, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And so basically this contract gives them 25 calendar days. I've even suggested to some of my agents that maybe when they write appraisal and financing contingencies to run, that they say, like, if they get any pushback from the listing agent, like, no, that's too much, because it does. It puts their seller at risk that, okay, so your buyer doesn't get approved. We don't find out till 2 days prior to closing, and my sellers are packed, your buyers are packed. It's not good for anybody. I get that fight. So what I've been saying is like, okay, well, what about 25 business days? Appraisal and financing contingency dates to run in business days. That gives the lender, then 5 weeks, right? It's just,
I think the appraisal. I think this is what they were saying. Contract was like in regards to like an independent. Maybe I'm not.
But what you're saying though is if you offered 210 on
appraised at
200.
200. Mhm.
but your appraisal contingency is play, you can negotiate.
You can negotiate as long as you're
Or you
not
can
called out in that appraisal contingency, because I have people say that to me. I have my agents say that to me. Well, they're not going to buy it if it doesn't appraise. I don't care about that date. Okay. But in regards to that, the listing agent could also come back and be like, your appraisal contingency expired.
Yeah.
So your buyers said that they would come up
Right.
10
Yeah,
days
and
because
that's
you weren't
important.
tracking, or $10,000 because you weren't tracking your dates.
Not in our contract class.
But I just talked to Dawn and Jim about this last week because I had an agent say the same thing. Like, well, no, because they're getting a loan, the appraisal contingency is still in play, which I agree with. I get that perspective. That's my word of the year, is perspective, because I always try to come from where everybody else is coming from to see it that way. And I do get that. Like, if they're not going to get a loan and pay $10,000 over, some people don't even have that, So I get where they're coming from on that. But I did check with our brokers, and then I did watch team meeting this last week, and I heard Jim mention the government loan writer. But then to go further into that, the government loan writer also states that this is just for VA and FHA loans. Well, what about our USDA loans? There's so much, right?
Yeah, it was the week.
Yeah, I didn't watch that one. I should have, but I had just asked them that. So that's interesting.
I know.
Like, that was just the end of last week that I had just asked them that. So I'll follow up. I'll
Yeah,
follow up and see, but I think that appraisal contingency box matters. I think that you should go like forward with caution, right? And just do what is right. So extend it to closing if they go for that. If not, extend it when you need to. Okay. What are the best practices to keep the deal alive? In my experience, communication is the most important thing with the co-agent, with the buyer, with the inspectors. Like, keep your timelines right and keep the deal alive. One of my agents, they say that the contract's a living, breathing being. And so keep it living and breathing by extending your contingencies if you need to and all that, right? What tasks have deadlines and what are those deadlines? Talked about. Other parties involved in the deal. So what I do, my main source of communication is email, and I like to email the co-agent at certain contracts. So the inspection's been scheduled. Back. please let me know when the appraisal is scheduled. That one's crucial. Like, that way, if 7 days before the appraisal is due, if the listing agent hasn't heard from the appraiser, I'm then contacting the lender and saying, hey, just to let you know, they haven't heard from the appraiser. I got an email back from a lender yesterday that said, yeah, and they probably won't. They're going to do a drive-by appraisal for this contract. And I'm like, all right, cool. That's why we haven't heard from them. But at least I know. And then I forwarded that response on to the agent, to the listing agent, you know, just keep involved. Your co-broker relationship is crucial in this industry. Always be kind. Always be kind. Always consider that you have absolutely no idea what they're going through, what their family's going through. People remember you. If you make a bad impression, people remember that. So always look for a win-win. And I know that's super KW and maybe a little cliche, but it's so true. And it has done, it has been a game changer with how people respond to me, because snarky or rude, like questions and when I need an answer. Have you guys had any bad agent? Any bad agent? Why?
Because like I just is not communicating, he's not doing stuff on time. Yeah. And so I feel like I'm like bothering him to do his own job.
This is recorded. Be careful. You can tell me afterwards. I think that when I have situations like that, so I've been independent. I've been an independent transaction coordinator now for 2 years. I closed 400 deals my first year. And I had a situation like that. I contacted brokers twice out of those 400 deals, twice. And all it was CCing the broker on the email. And then the agent was like, all right, fine, I'm here. You know, and I'm like, we're good. Like, what can I do to help? Like, let me help you. You know, if you come from that, then they're good. But I have had to contact a broker twice, but it really makes them step their game up a little bit. Wow, your clients, raving fans. This is super crucial to me. I like to say as a transaction coordinator, I never want your clients to remember me. I want them to remember you, and you just look really good, because your repeat and referral is my repeat and referral, right? So this is super crucial. I have learned a lot about command lately. If you haven't jumped in command, you need to. You need a system for your business. If you're an individual, if you're not operating with a TC, you need a system for your business. That's why I gave you these checklists. I don't use paper at all. I don't have any paper. I can do anything from my laptop, but I know a lot of people still work with checklists. So that's why I made you guys this. Have a paper file, that's fine too. But you want to be able to run your business like a business from the beginning. Trust me. And part of that is having your systems in place so that when these tasks come up, you don't have to remember all the tasks. They're in your calendar. They're being reminded, and Command does that for you, and I can show you how. I'll bring your laptops. So in Command, you opportunities. Has everybody been in Command? So if you go into the opportunities phase, you can customize the phases that are in. So let's say you have a listing, so you can customize a pre-listing checklist and assign it to certain days. So you can remind yourself to order pictures next Wednesday, because that's when the seller said that you'd be good to order the pictures. So next Wednesday, you have a task to order the pictures. And then when it goes under contract and all the contract checklist that you can build inside of Command, I would show you, I have it all built out. I was going to show you guys. If you have the under contract, then all this stuff can go in your checklist and you can assign it to your due dates that are on that are whatever they're contingent on. You know, you count your 25 days, you count your 10 days. And it can all be on there. I also highly recommend a virtual whiteboard, whether that's a spreadsheet. I use Airtable. And I could show you guys my virtual whiteboard too. I'm coming over here. Well, they won't be able to see it anyways. So on here, which, I mean, everybody has their own system that they use. Mine's very task-based too, so I just go through and I'm like, I have 15 tasks to do today. Guys, how fast can you knock out 15 tasks? Have your business created like a business with systems in place, you will work less. Your phone will ring less. Your buyers and sellers' questions have already been answered because you already followed up on that before they even had a question. Okay. Obviously super passionate about it.
Were you an agent first?
No, I have never wanted to buy, sell, be involved at all with a buyer or seller, ever. I've never had any interest in it. I am a systems guru. I still am in files somewhat right now, but my high-level systems that make the experience everybody involved. I think about that when I plan out my systems. Like, I don't want to just ask the lender basic questions. I want to ask him educated questions so that I'm helping him meet. I have a phone call right when I go under contract with the lender that says, like, if I haven't worked with him before or her before, hi, I'm Lindsay. I wanted to introduce myself. I'm working with so-and-so agent. I am here to help you. I'm going to save you time and phone calls. And he's like, I'm all in. You know, my goal in my systems is to help the co-agent, the lender. Files that I'm on. The consumer applet. Have you guys seen this? I got in there. It's completely customizable. It's basically like a it's a buyer's guide or a seller's guide that takes them through where they're at in the process. It's actually really neat. You could build this into your business as something you introduce them to as soon as they go into contract or as soon as you guys meet. You know, if you're out your business card and they already have the KW app or whatever it is, this is where they can exactly what's going to happen next. That's the goal of this, I believe. And it's really neat. I don't know. I think it would be time consuming to class where this could be the focus. It's so cool. I customized the pictures. I went to Canva. If you guys don't use Canva, it's a free website. Tish is like a guru, like on Canva. She's done some really cool things. But it's free. It's awesome. If you want like the not free version, the not free version is like $12 a month. It's going to help you with your social media graphics and all this stuff. So I created pictures inside Canva and then uploaded them into this template, and it's awesome. I did like rose gold and pink. Because I don't have buyers, nobody will ever see it. So I'm like, this is really just for me. I can do whatever I want. I was gonna show you guys all this cool stuff. And I still will if I. Huh? Well, I'm not logged into like my command here. Even if I was in the Market Center's command, I'd show you that, but I just don't have their command pulled up. That's the problem. Okay, I want to give you guys, so I threw these together. They might not be perfect. I did do the best I can, and I have a compliance checklist and commissions, what you need to do, get paid on time, and all for you. Any questions? Like, I know I covered a lot in a small amount of time. 45 minutes. Whenever they do the repairs in section, it usually costs like 75 to 150 I've seen. And that's buyer's expense. I have had agents do that as a closing gift. Free inspections, not super common. That's what the final walkthrough can be for. Especially if you have like a buyer who's like a real handy guy. That's a good talk to have when you order the inspection or when you do the inspection. That way you can already prepare the Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know. Sometimes I get Lowe's receipts. Works for me. I mean, I don't know if it worked for the buyer. Oh, there's one online. Not sure what that is. I've never. Okay, Erin, you just have to go to if you're in your opportunity in command, then you'll go to offers and commissions and you'll add a new offer and then you'll put the details of that offer in there. Once you accept the offer, which is something you have to do inside the offers and commissions tab in your opportunity in command, then you will be pulled up to the commissions tab, and the commissions tab will be your green sheet. That's how the disbursement authorization gets created. I hope I answered that. If not, you can always call me too. Anything? Lender, title company, title work, nothing? Compliance?
Kind of a question. Okay, so I'm doing my first deal with an investor that's like an LLC, and we, like with Mark, he always closes at one specific title company. But this guy said, nope, I want to close here. They
Titan
already have all
Title.
my stuff. And so it started at one and it's gonna go to the other. So like, who, does somebody have to pay like the first one who started all the title work? He did, but they did
Title
a
work.
little bit, yeah. Like a couple days later into it is when he's like, oh, I wanna close.
So you just have to, first off, you need an amendment to company.
We have
Is,
a contract coordinator, so she probably like took care of all this and I didn't even know, right? Okay.
you need an amendment to. You have Jill Corbin, don't you?
I do,
Yeah,
yeah.
She got it.
Okay. But like, does the first one still get paid for like doing a little bit of work? Nope.
It sucks for them, you
Yeah.
know? So that's why you always want to sell. But if you send them a lot of business, they're like, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, if you guys send them all your business, they're not mad about it. Yeah. And you can't control what the buyer, decides.
Yeah.
As far as that goes. One document that I have a pet peeve about is is then contingent sale of their home, not the closing. So it's active with contingency on the market, right? So whenever their property goes under contract and you need to deliver notice to the seller that their property went under contract, what document do you use? Contingent, so let's say you're representing the buyer.
Yeah, and they have a loan contingency.
No, a contingency for sale, meaning they need to sell their home before they can be approved to buy this home. So
Well,
then
yeah.
it's existing, so then it's
A loan contingency, right?
not about the loan, it's about their house. It's about their current home.
Yeah, but if they don't sell their current home, they're not.
So that would be a contingency for sale document that you would need. Have to have the contingency for sale whenever you put that offer in to have it, because then it will be on the market still as active with contingency, meaning the buyer has to be able to sell their home in order to purchase this one.
Oh, but what if it's already under, contract? It's just a loan? If the listing.
We're talking about if it's not under contract, if their current
Oh,
home
well,
isn't
yeah,
under
but I
contract.
would never go. I'm working both sides right now.
So you use the contingency for closing document.
Yeah.
So,
I'd-
but some
I'd have
buyers are
to.
gonna say, I'm not listing, some sellers are gonna say, I'm not listing until I find a house. And you're like, okay. They're like, I won't put my house on the market until I have a new house.
I hate photographer in less than 24 hours time, and it was,
Okay,
so I got this.
yes.
And I did it, and I got it under contract
Yeah.
within 24 hours.
That's the
time.
market that we're in right now, but it won't always be.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So now I'm just in the middle of finding him. And I can't stress to him enough that, hey.
Yeah.
Or you're gonna be out of house and home.
Yeah, see, that's what's scary, because he can be homeless.
Because
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I'm trying
So
to
in that
explain to him
instance-
How the market is right now and that, yeah, we might, file a contract, offer, but that doesn't mean it's accepted
Yeah.
because there's like a million house too as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's been on the market,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
That's exactly right. So let's say that the seller said, no, I'm not listing my house until I find a house. That's when you would use the contingency for sale. The
Yeah.
document that you would use is not the contingency for closing. It is property sale notice that only requires the buyer's signatures. We want less signatures required, you know? That's why it's such a pet peeve of mine, because I'm like, oh, now the sellers have to sign this when really they don't, because you're saying, this is my notice to you that my house has went under contract and now we're under contract and all contingency periods begin. Existing property sale notice.
And then it's a writer.
Yeah, it says something else. Mhm.
Is that kicking out the contingency?
Correct. So then the property will be contingent on the closing they already know, right? Because on that form, it says this property.
I thought you, okay, so unless I had his house already under contract.
After, whatever your kickout was. Yeah. I have an agent going through this right now. She admitted a contingency for sale. And she's like, I got to get this house under contract by Friday night. And I'm like, okay, so we have a house that we need under contract in one day, in order, or the other house, the other contract isn't. I also found out from our brokers that when you submit a contract with a contingency for sale, the only buyer still has to turn in earnest money. Special agreements, you can write all contingency after the buyer's property is under contract. But because I think it's weird to turn in earnest money on a property that's not technically under.
Thing as I had a seller who was just
We don't talk about problems until there's a solution. Yeah, always. That's always my, I even wrote it down on my sheet, like something I wanted to share with you. Taught me that a long time ago, because I'm definitely the type that's like fall apart, but you don't tell anybody about a problem until you have a solution. So all a solution is talking to the lender, title company, co-agent, whatever you need to do to get it whatever, and trying to make sense of it all. Because some of that confusion comes from our own selves, where we're like, well, we don't know the answer. So just find a way to find the answer. I think real estate is all about being self-motivated and a self-starter. I don't think that you can do it if you're not. I don't think you can be an admin if you're not willing to ask questions. That's how it all starts, if you're not willing to be vulnerable. That's what our brokers are for. That's what our co-agents are for, that are more experienced than us. What KW is all about. So asking those right questions will help you get through those problems. And there are so many people that have gone through so many things. There's probably that internal page would be like a huge benefit to me. I'll just like look up a question that I have and see that it's already been, I can find a septic inspector there. If I just look up septic inspectors, it'll bring up who other people have recommended in the past. So there's always something. Find an answer. But I do all of this for listings. Everything that I do on the buyer side, I do on the listing side. So it doesn't change. Kim Mooneyham put a contract in the other day that her lender made her take off, but it said that they'll bring a 2-liter and a pizza to closing. Sure that I've seen some other things, but you know, you just. I would love to show you guys if you want to stay. I would love to show you guys a virtual. Track your closings on so that you guys don't lose track of where you're at in the transaction. Somebody comes and help, like SOS. If you guys have any questions though, you guys can email me, call me. I'm always available to help. That's what I do. I help agents. Okay, I'm gonna try to figure this out here. Oh, yeah.
You did the Marty.
Yeah. Buyer seller compliance.
Excellent.